The Speak Up project was created by young people in the Suburban Urban Justice Program. Speak Up is a book full of stories from students about race and racism in their schools. Suburban Urban Justice teens are committed to shifting a world full of oppression to a world full of justice, not just for race, but for all areas. In order to do that, we have to understand the language of oppression and justice. We can't have a conversation if we're not speaking in the same language.
Oppression. In general terms, oppression is the unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power. Power. A person's power is their ability to act on something as well as whether their action will produce an effect.
Systemic oppression. When someone is oppressed systemically, this refers to the systems and policies that institutions, like schools, businesses, or the government, have in place that allow or perpetuate oppressive and discriminatory thinking towards members of certain groups. This is on a society-wide scale and built into the society in which we live.
Racism. Racism is an example of systemic oppression. There are 4 ways in which racism and all of the isms operate in society.
Interpersonal. The way a person interacts with other people, of their own as well as other group membership, are interpersonal interactions. Institutional. Oppression that operates on an institutional scale. This refers to the policies and rules that institutions and organizations hold that perpetuate discrimination and oppression.
Ideological. The culture we live in, which is influenced by people around us, the media, and by institutions, affect the beliefs we hold. Internal. When oppression is internal, it affects the person's beliefs, perspectives, and values a person has.
People usually talk about oppression from a purely internal or interpersonal standpoint, but this misses the big picture. It is important to know that the systems, institutions, and messages society creates and perpetuates all combine to create pervasive and destructive systems of oppression.
We need to act on all aspects of the system in order to make change. Everyone plays a part, including you. Working for justice means being an ally, because all of these oppressions affect us all. That's why we're launching the Speak Up Ally Project.
Social justice is our cause. We as allies fight for a fair, righteous, equitable, and morally right society. There should be an equal distribution of power and privileges within a society, and that is what we are fighting for. Allyship can and should happen on all 4 levels of oppression.
Hello, my name is Aisha Hersey, and I'm 18 years old, and one way to be an ally is to educate others about all that you've learned about systematic injustice in your community and beyond. Talk with teachers, friends, family, and community members. Hear stories, engage with history, and most of all, read.
Hi, my name is Laura Diamond. I'm 15 years old and I attend Winchester High School. One tip for being an ally is to acknowledge your own internalized ideas about oppression and make real steps toward change. Experiences with oppression can be very different for different people and can be painful to confront.
I have a friend who I'm in a band with, and he's a very creative person. So one day he came up to me with what he claimed to be an excellent idea for how we could liven up our stage performance. What he wanted to do was each member of the band would select a symbol of an ancient culture that we had an interest in to wear on stage. And for himself, he wanted to wear a Navajo Indian jacket. And wearing a Navajo Indian jacket on stage is a gimmick to get attention, but was very culturally appropriate, seeing as we're part of a culture that's been oppressing Native Americans for generation after generation. And so to use one of their symbols for our own personal gain is just wrong. And when I explained this to him, he didn't agree with me. He said that there is nothing racist or culturally appropriative about his idea, but he did let the issue drop. 2 main reasons why I was able to confront him about this instead of just feeling self-conscious and not wanting to make an issue of it was that I disagreed with using any sort of gimmick to draw attention away from things like music, as well as the fact that I've known this person for a very long time and are pretty close through being in the band together. And so that gave me the confidence to call him out on something that I disagreed with.
My name is Jacob Folsom Fraster. I'm 18 and I go to Arlington High School. One tip to being an ally is get involved with an organization at school or out of school. Make sure your school and community have the resources they need to combat systemic oppression. Create support groups. No one can do this work alone. Living in a mostly upper to middle class, white, suburban town, my school is not the most diverse. We have the METCO program, which brings students from the inner city of Boston to suburban schools like mine and others in the area. Two of my friends who are in the METCO program completed a social justice program over the summer, and this year started a social justice club in my school. I try to attend every meeting every other week, and I feel it's very important to go. First off, I enjoy learning about social justice and I enjoy talking about it. I want to support my friends who are trying to spread values of justice and equity in a school where systems of oppression are often overlooked and privilege is often unacknowledged. I feel I have a duty to the younger kids who are excited about learning social justice to keep this club alive so they will have a place to talk and learn about these issues. It is important to me that this type of education, awareness, and action is celebrated and accepted in my suburban high school.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm 19 and I go to Johnson & Wales University. One tip to be an ally would be to use our political system to create change. You can work with the government even if you can't vote. Advocate and participate in campaigns. Find out what your community is doing, connect with them, and join in.
So my ally moment came when I was sitting in the Suburban Justice office and I was researching Governor Patrick's tax proposal for Massachusetts, and we were working to try to get more progressive forms of revenue into the Massachusetts tax plan. And it hit me that I wasn't going to be in Massachusetts next year because I'm going to college in a different state. And so even if we were totally successful and got everything that we wanted in the budget, I wasn't actually going to be in Massachusetts to see that happen. So I realized that as somebody with privilege, it wasn't going to affect me as much personally as it would affect lots of other people, but it's still very important. After some thought, I came to understand that part of being an ally is working towards something that may not affect me personally. But it's important to still work for that because it affects other people who I know and who, really need it. And then another reason that it's really important is that, so if Massachusetts could become a leader, then it could be a role model for other states and the whole country could improve.
Hi, my name is Fatima Mohammed. I'm 17 years old and I go to Excel High School. And one specific thing you can do to be an ally is work on specific issues that are manageable. Saying I'm going to end oppression is overwhelming. Instead, create small, realistic goals that will help you towards ending oppression. When I was in 8th grade, I was the only Muslim student in my school, so I always felt out of place and alone. But I had a close group of friends, so I never actually felt completely alone. So when Osama bin Laden died in May of that school year, we talked about him in basically every class that we went to, associating him with the Muslim people as if they were one thing. I wanted to stand up and say, no, terrorism has nothing to do with Muslims. But because of the media, I already knew that people already thought that, so I just kept quiet. And in the back of my head, I was hoping that the people that I've gone to school with for the past 3 years, and some of them for the past 5 years, would have a better sense of judgment than to associate me with him or terrorist people. I just went on with my day. Until one day, one of my classmates comes up to me and says, I'm sorry for your loss, Fatuma. As if I just lost one of my family members. At that moment, I was really pissed off and just felt completely alone. I didn't know who to talk to. And then one of my friends at the moment noticed that something was wrong, and so she asked me what happened. I told her the story. I didn't really expect her to do anything or say anything since he was close friends with the boy too. So I was really surprised when she went up to him and talked to him and told him how he was being a real ignorant jerk and how he shouldn't be saying those things. That's the moment that I knew I wasn't as alone as I thought I was. And that's what it means to be an ally.
Educate others about what you have learned, because being aware is essential. Try to meet everyone where they are and engage them through their stories and stories of your own.
My school is really competitive academically, and we're expected to start preparing for SATs in college really early. Like, I'm only a freshman right now, but a lot of people in my grade are already taking SAT prep courses and taking subject tests and already doing all this SAT stuff as a freshman. So I was talking to my friend about it, and she was complaining, and she was talking about how her parents were making her take this prep course that she really didn't want to take, and how she thinks that it's too early to take a prep course, but her parents were making her do it. While I was talking to her, I realized that I do agree with what she was talking about. I think that it's too early, and I think that they shouldn't put so much pressure on kids about SATs so early, but I also realized that there was a much bigger problem that she didn't really seem to get. The fact that we can take prep courses this early and have so much money and time going into us doing well on a test, I think that's a really great privilege, and a lot of people don't have a privilege like that, and I think that it's really important for people in suburbs like mine, and wealthier communities, to be aware of this big huge class difference. That kids living in wealthy communities like Winchester tend to take their privileges for granted, and a lot of people don't have opportunities like that. They just don't, because a lot of people don't have the money or don't have the resource. So while my friend was talking about this and complaining about her test, I wanted to bring up the fact that she was lucky that she could take this test, but I also didn't want to bring it up in a way that would be offensive, because I got her point. So I tried to say it in a nice way, but I did want to say it. I think wealth inequality is a really important issue, and I wish that more people were aware of it. The more people who know about an issue like this, the better, because that way we can all work together and try to change it.
My name is Colin Clutchman. I'm 16 years old, and I go to Lexington High School. To be an effective ally, I think it's really important to acknowledge something called intersectionality, which is that different systems of oppression coexist and have varied effects on people based on their identities. For example, a transsexual lesbian woman of color is oppressed both as a woman, a transsexual, and a person of color all at once.
So a few weeks ago, I went down to Providence to have a tour of the campus. It was really a lovely tour, we got to sample some foods and got to see all the cooking labs. I wanted to share with my friend just how awesome I felt about going to this new school. But before I could even say anything, she looks at me and says, "Everyone in there was so fat." And okay, yeah, I'd noticed that too. I mean, it's a culinary school. I was sort of expecting that. I mean, you literally eat your homework there, so naturally people would probably gain a few extra pounds there. It didn't bother me because it's not a big deal how much someone weighs. I didn't say anything to her in that moment. I was just so stunned that she would say that. But if I had said something, I wish I would have said, "What does that matter?" That is one part of them as a person, and it has nothing to do with their personality. It's so much more than just, oh, this person is fat. It becomes, this person is fat, so they're probably lazy, so they're probably a slob, so they're dirty and disgusting and smelly and gross. It's really tragic. It's really difficult to see people treating each other like that and speaking this way about each other. It's just because we're afraid of being different. We're just afraid of something that breaks out of the norm. So I, as a thin person with thin privilege, need to do my best to call people out when they're saying horrible things about people being fat.
My name is Ezra Cooper Smith. I'm 18 years old and I go to Brookline High School. And one tip for being an ally is to listen to understand and don't plan your next response. If you're hearing what someone is saying, dialogue happens naturally. It is so important to keep an open mind because your opinions might change.
My reluctance to like presenting a story just I guess kind of comes from out of a feeling like, or whenever I think about it, I sort of feel like I'm embodying like this savior complex, or like coming from a place of incredible privilege and sort of like speaking on behalf of or like for other people that are being oppressed. Like, I mean, literally, like, being sort of, like, that savior that comes in for others because, like, they need your help and you're just, like, being this philanthropic, ethical, like, I mean, like, savior for someone else because you are, like, omniscient and, like, know their struggle and, like, you can, like, as if, like, you can, like, speak for.
My name is Lucy. I am 15 and I go to Cambridge Latin School. And one tip to be an ally is use your power as a more privileged person to help initiate change in places where your voice is heard over whom you ally with.
There was this one day on May 3rd, I was getting ready for school, and it was the day after that Bin Laden died, and I realized that students would be talking about it. I had entered a humanities class and my teacher had asked a question on whether students felt safer now that Bin Laden had died, and one student had made a remark about how since America had killed one terrorist that they should go after others, and he stated a comment before about Muslims, therefore categorizing Islam with terrorism. I knew that they were saying it subconsciously, but to actually say it out loud made a bigger effect on me. And that got me a little angry, and I got angry at the teacher because I felt as though he was an antagonist for asking the question in the beginning. And he actually kicked out the student and told him that this type of behavior was unacceptable, and that's when I noticed that my teacher was an ally rather than an antagonist.
Join Speak Up. Write your own story and share it on our blog or with your community. Ask for Speak Up to come to your school and conduct a workshop. Join Suburban Justice or Boston Mobilization and participate in our summer program.